Chapter 17. The Second Storm. Daniel's lungs tore with every breath. His ankle was on fire and every step was agony, but the sound behind them left no room for weakness. The hound was closing in. Its growl rolled through the trees and vibrated the ground beneath their feet. Daniel could hear its claws tearing at the earth, could feel the rush of air each time its jaws snapped inches too close. Lily cried out and stumbled, and Daniel dragged her up again, refusing to let her fall. They crashed through the undergrowth. The shadows were now in with their hound chase, bending around the trees as if the forest itself was feeding the beast. Daniel dared a glance back and nearly tripped. The hound was there, his red eyes blazing in their backs. Teeth glistening, his body was a mass of smoke and muscle. It was on them. Then Daniel felt drops of water falling from the sky. He looked up and saw the sky ripped open, dark clouds rolling and covering the sunlight. A thunderclap shook the air so loud it seemed to split the world. The drops on Daniel's face were cold as ice and heavy. Then came the deluge. Sheets of water were crashing down and drowning the forest in a roaring tide. The hound and shadows faltered. They skidded to a halt, the smoke of boiling water from the hound's flanks where the rain struck. Its growl turned into a snarl, and deeper and angrier. The shadows writhed with it, reaching and twitching as the storm thickened. As the water ran in rivulets through the earth and trees, the hound and shadows recoiling away. Daniel collapsed to his knees, dragging Lily against him, both of them gasping for air. Their hair plastered to their faces by the rain, but they don't care. The rain was a blessing. The storm was not their enemy, but it was their only shield. Daniel knew that the storm was going to pass. They had just a few minutes, or maybe, if lucky, an hour to get as far as they could from the hound and the shadows. All of them were hiding from the rain. Daniel pulled Lily along the drenched slope, his body aching but moving faster than it had in days. The rain lashed against them, washing the mud from their skin, erasing the tracks and blurring everything into grey. For once, the shadows did not follow. They were making good time. Each step through the storm felt like stolen minutes, a reprieve the hound could not breach. Daniel didn't dare to slow down. If they could push far enough, if they could put real distance between themselves and those things, maybe, just maybe, they could disappear. Lily stumbled beside him, shivering from the cold rain, but she still clung to his arm, her little legs keeping the pace through sheer willpower. "Danny, are we safe now?" "Not yet," he said, "but soon." Through the curtain of rain, the trees began to thin, and with hope, Daniel saw it, a strip of broken tarmac cutting through the forest. Weeds were sprouting through cracks, but still solid. A road, a real road. He almost laughed. The storm began to ease and the hope started to thin away. If the rain stops, the hound will start his hunt again. The downpour softened into a steady shower and no longer drowned the forest, burning the shadows away. The grey light sharpened, and Daniel felt the hair rise on his arms as the silence of the hunt returned. Their shield was vanishing. He turned toward the tree line, and in the fading sheets of rain, the shapes gathered again. Somewhere deeper in the forest, they hear the low growl of the hound. The hunt was only paused when the rain stopped. The hound will come with full force. Daniel urged Lily onto the cracked road, their footsteps splashing through the shallow puddles. It was easier here, his pace steadier now, the straggle of running through roots and brambles finally gone. The storm still clung to them in a thin veil of rain, but the forest was opening and giving them space to breathe. For the first time in hours, Daniel felt the pressure in his chest ease. Then, at first faint but then louder and louder, a rumble cut through the curtain of rain. He froze, and with every nerve braced for another growl, another nightmare stepping from the trees. But no, this was different, this was mechanical. This was wheels on asphalt. Daniel's breath caught and he almost collapsed with the sound. A truck, a real truck. Somewhere behind them and coming fast. He gripped Lily's shoulders, their eyes met with wild despair or joy. "Do you hear that?" She blinked at him and a tired smile lurked on her mouth and she nodded. "A truck, Danny." Relief broke in his chest, so sharp it felt like pain. He turned back to the road, pulling Lily forward with renewed strength. "There's hope," he whispered, the words trembling with half a prayer and half a promise. "There's hope for us yet." Behind them, just beyond the reach of the rain, the shadows lingered, stretching and waiting for the storm to end. But for the first time since the nightmare began, Daniel felt something stronger than fear. There was hope on the road, it was coming toward them. a human being who will save them and they can get home. Get away from this horrifying beast of nightmares. The truck's engine roared closer, headlights cutting through the mist and rain like twin suns. Daniel stumbled into the middle of the road, waving his arms wildly, his voice cracking. "Hey, stop please, stop!" The horn blared once, long and startled, and the truck screeched as the brakes locked against the wet road. The mud and water sprayed like a wave outward. Daniel shielded Lily. Their hearts were hammering as the massive truck slid to a halt just meters away from them. For a moment, the world was silent but for the hiss of rain. Then the driver's door creaked open. A man stepped out, broad-shouldered and wearing a blue, worn cap with the words "Boss" in big black letters. His face was lined with confusion and shock. His boots splashed through puddles as he hurried toward them. "Fracken, what the hell happened to you kids?" he said, his eyes darting between Daniel's arms and face, covered with mud and blood. Lily's pale, wet, trembling face next to him. Daniel tried to speak, but his throat was raw. "Please, help us." The driver didn't hesitate. He guided them toward the truck, muttering under his breath and glancing nervously toward the dripping line. Lily clung to Daniel's hand as they climbed into the truck. It was an old farm hauler, the kind that was built decades ago and was held together now by rust and prayer. The faded green paint had long since turned to dull gray, and the metal groaned as they pulled themselves inside. The cabin smelled of diesel and wet, muddy earth and old tobacco. The driver slammed the door behind them, and after climbing in himself, he shifted the gears with a heavy hand. The engine rumbled to life, coughing out black smoke before settling into a rough growl. Daniel sank back against the torn seat, his chest heaving with exhaustion. Lily pressed close beside him, silent except for the soft, uneven sound of her breathing. "You kids picked a hell of a day to be out here," the driver muttered, glancing at them from under the brim of his cap. His eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, scanning the road nervously behind them. "With a storm like that, you're lucky I came through this back road." Daniel managed a weak nod, still gripping Lily's hand. We needed to get away." The man didn't ask from what, but the look on his face said he didn't need to. He'd seen things on these roads, things that would leave their mark. The rain still streaked down the windshield in slow, shimmering trails. The wipers scraped back and forth with a tired rhythm, beating time against the engine's low growl. Daniel sat rigid in his seat, clutching Lily's hand. She was staring out her side of the truck's window, her lips were trembling, and her eyes were fixed on the mist-shrouded trees. For a few blessed minutes, it was almost peaceful, the steady hum of the engine and the rhythmic sweep of the wipers, the faint promise of safety. Then came the sound, so loud and terrifying, it made everyone in the truck freeze with shock. The howl of the hound. From the howl of the hound, then rising into a deep, guttural cry that froze the air in their lungs. It didn't sound like any animal Daniel had ever heard. It sounded like the forest itself had learned to scream. The driver's hands tightened on the wheel. "What the hell fracken was that?" Daniel's blood ran cold as ice. "It's them." Before he could say more, the howl came again. And this time, it wasn't alone. Another answered it. Then another, sounds like a whole pack of shadow hounds. A chorus of hunger rolled through the mist, echoing off the wet trees, rising and falling like the call of something ancient and triumphant. The driver's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "There's more than one." Daniel turned in his seat, and his stomach dropped. Shapes are moving at the edge of the tree line, dark forms keeping pace with the truck, flickering in and out of sight between the trunks. Their eyes burned like hot red coals in the dim light. "You should go faster," Daniel shouted. "I am." The driver snapped nervously, pressing harder on the pedal. The hauler roared down the slick road, the mud and gravel spitting from its tires. Behind them, the howls rose again. Lily whimpered and covered her ears. "Danny, make them stop." Daniel pulled her against him, his voice was low and shaking. "I can't, little bug, just hold on." The rain was thinning now, breaking apart into the soft mist. The shield that had saved them was dying, drop by drop. And through the smear of water on the rear window, Daniel saw one of the hounds break free from the cover of trees. The hound teeth gleamed like shards of night. The hunt has begun again. The pack of hounds burst all onto the road. They moved as a single, seething shape, their bodies melding and splitting apart, a pack of shadows stitched together by hunger. The sound of their claws on the wet asphalt was like glass being dragged across metal. Dark saliva hung from their mouth in long, stringy ropes that hissed when they hit the road, burning small pits into the surface. Their eyes glowed red through the curtain of rain, dozens of them, and all of them are locked on the truck. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Go, go. The driver didn't need telling twice. The old hauler screamed down the road, the gears grinding, the frame shuddering as the wheels fought for grip. The mud and gravel exploded behind them. But the hounds were fast. They ran in perfect rhythm, their long, liquid limbs hitting the ground with inhuman precision. Every few seconds, one would leap, snapping its black teeth inches from the truck's tailgate before melting back into the pack. The rain was nearly gone now, and only a soft drizzle remained, and the air grew colder and heavier, as though the world itself was holding its breath. "They're gaining on us," Daniel yelled. The driver's eyes darted to the mirror. "Hold on tight," he shouted. The road ahead split suddenly at a T-junction. "No, no, no," the driver hissed, jerking the wheel. The truck skidded sideways, the tires screamed, and for one terrifying second, Daniel saw the forest vanish to their right and nothing but the open void of a ravine beyond it. The hounds howled as one. The sound was deafening. "Hang on," the driver bellowed. The world tilted and the truck slammed through the guardrail and everything went silent.